about the adventure, the ecological exploration, and the cultural discovery in the Amazon.
In less than an hour, Bob hopes.
Yes. Okay, let's get this thing going. There you go. So where are we? This is New Jersey. You go straight south, you hit Manaus. See this little blue dot? That's the city of Manaus, and it's just about 3 degrees south of the equator. So everything we're going to talk about is going to be in a hot, humid area right around the equator. Brazil is broken up into states, and the state that we went to was Amazonas. It's the largest state in Brazil. The capital of Brazil is Manaus, and it's got about 2.1 million people. The rest of the Amazonas area has got a population density of 3 people per square mile. So it's wide open territory. All the development is around Manaus, and maybe a little city here, or maybe something else here. But very few roads. The only way you can get through this territory is by river. So it's very, very remote. There are 2.3 million square miles in the Amazon rainforest. It's about 75% the size of the U.S. It's in 9 countries. These are all the countries. Brazil is the biggest, but it's also to the west and to the north of Brazil. All the 9 countries that I show here, Bolivia, Peru, and a bunch of others. Amazonas itself is about 600,000 square miles. It's the size of Alaska. So if you drill down a little bit into the Amazon basin, these are the rivers that compose the basin in Amazonas, or in Brazil. This is the Amazon River. Starts in the Andes and heads out to the Atlantic Ocean. This is the Rio Negro, which is the main tributary of the Amazon, and it meets right at Manaus, where we were at. So it's a really special place. This they call the heart of the Amazon. Another river I want to point out is the Rio Roosevelt. One of the interesting things I did is, I don't know how many of you folks are familiar with the River of Doubt. It's a biography of Theodore Roosevelt. It was written early 2000s. But he lost the election, and he was kind of depressed, so he decided he was going to explore the Amazon. So he hooked up with a fellow by the name of Colonel Rondon, who was a fantastic explorer. They decided to look at the Amazon and try to map a river that no one had ever heard of, but knew exactly where it went. It was called the River of Doubt, because no one knew exactly where it went. And they mapped that river, and they had some pretty harrowing tales. But they did manage to finish it up, and after it was done, it was called the Rio Roosevelt. It's also a main tributary of the Amazon. So our adventures were not quite as harrowing as they were, but it was kind of interesting to read this while we're in the area. The Amazon River Basin is the largest river system in the world. It's 3,900 miles long, and there's debate whether it's the Nile or the Amazon for length. But when it comes to total water, this blows everybody away. Because in the dry season, it's 2 to 6 miles. Oh, hit the wrong button, sorry.
Hey, no, give me some.
There we go. Hit the wrong button. It's supposed to be the red button. I think it's the green button. So in the dry season, it's about 2 to 6 miles wide, but in the rainy season, it's about 30 miles wide. They get an awful lot of rain down there, and a lot of the treetops get covered. It's also maybe one of the oldest river systems in the world. This existed 80 to 90 million years ago, when even before the breakup of the supercontinent Gondwana land. Back then, it went into the Pacific Ocean. But about 15 million years ago, when the Andes formed in the west, the outlet to the Pacific Ocean got blocked. So for 5 million years, this was just one giant lake and swamp in South America. So all kinds of creatures lived in there. About 5 million years after that, so about 10 million years ago, it broke through the highlands on the eastern part and went into the Atlantic. And that's where it exits today. So it really does have some really old and bizarre stuff, especially fish. Now, where did we go? We started in Manaus. There's a little parrot here that says Manaus on it. And these little blue dots are where we docked along the way. So we went down the Rio Negro, went around a very special place, and Debbie's going to talk about that, up into the Amazon to a lake called Lake Januaca. We spent some time exploring there, then we came back out, back over to the Rio Negro, and we stopped at different spots along the way, and we did some excursions. We took some canoe boat rides, and I'll show you what they look like, into a lot of these tributaries you see on the side here, and we would examine what happened. We came all the way up, we went through, and spent a lot of time in the archipelago Anabalas.
We practiced that.
That was good.
That's the hard work we did.
Both words.
So all those green threads are islands.
There are 400 islands here, and you can't step foot on them because they're preserved. But you can ride around them, you can
Take pictures.
take pictures, you can dock along the riverside, so you can do excursions on the sides of the river, but you can't actually go under the islands themselves. And after that, we came back down, had some relaxation, and came back to Manaus, and then we came back home. So we did spend some time in Manaus.
Okay, thank you for coming.
So what did we do? Overall, we spent about 2 days in Manaus, the city of Manaus, about a day or so ahead of time, another half a day or so at the end. We did 8 days, total days, 9 days total, 8 days total when you count a couple of them in half. On the Amazon River, the Rio Negro. So we did about approximately 250 miles. We took 10 motorized canoe trips, 3 of them in pitch dark night. That was very interesting to go on the Amazon at nighttime.
Under the stars.
Yes. We visited 3 different villages of different types, and we'll talk about that. We did a couple of jungle or forest walks, and we had plenty of opportunity to fish, to swim, to relax, and to learn. And these are the canoes that we took. We didn't have to do any paddling. They had a little motor in the back and a driver that helped us out. And we would have 2 guys on the boat. We'd have the main guide in the front and our guide in the back, who was a naturalist and driver. So
As you remember, we quite often travel with Road Scholar, and this trip was another one of their offerings. So on this adventure, there are 20 like-minded explorers, a group organizer, 2 naturalists who actually live in the Amazon River Basin, and the 2 young men that Bob was talking about that drove us. They were also our bushwhackers and our jungle guides. So we're pictured here in front of, we're in Manaus at the magnificent Opera House. And it is the starting point of our adventure. And it's a reminder of the city's heydays. Manaus rose to opulence in the late 1800s during the rubber boom. Unfortunately, it was on the back of the locals who had to go into the jungle and harvest the sap that became the rubber. But eventually, a clever Englishman illegally snuck out some seeds, propagated them, and then he distributed them to plantation owners in the southeast. And that completely overtook the market. So by 1913, the rubber boom was gone. Brazil's economic losses were staggering. The rubber barons and the wealthy entrepreneurs who built up this beautiful city just abandoned it. Fortunately, some of the structures and the beautiful architecture have been restored and have been designated as historic sites. So during our short time in Manaus, we toured Teatro Amazonas, the opera house. And you can see these private boxes and luxurious decor. This just illustrates the wealth of the rubber boom. Today you can go in and it doesn't have to cost you, you don't have to be a millionaire, because they set the prices so that everybody can get in and enjoy the performances in this beautiful space. We also visited the Governor's Palace. It's now a museum and it's a good place to get a bit of the history of the area. And then another visit we took was in the Mercado Municipal, the central market, which has been recognized as one of Brazil's special historic places. But for tourists and locals, it's just a bunch of booths, a real maze, and they offer the fish and local fruits and vegetables that are gathered from around the Amazon. And this is the Catholic Church of St. Sebastian. It was started in the days of the missionaries, and it sits right on the city's beautiful public square.
So before we actually go into the river voyage, I want to talk about the conditions. We went in October time period because we wanted to go in the dry season. We didn't want to get here where the rains were tremendous and the bugs were awful. So we decided to go in the dry season, but this was really dry. Usually the river at its height is about 100 feet in depth at the port of Manaus. And during the dry season, it will go down to about 60. You can't really see the lines, but this is the typical lines here. But in 2003 and 2024, when we were there was a severe drought, and it wound up being 20 feet lower than normal, 12.66 meters. So the river was extremely low, and this drought may have affected some of the wildlife that we saw, and we'll talk a little bit as we go. Just to show you what it looks like, this is the port of Manaus, the way it's supposed to look like. You have some nice big-sized boats on the side here. When we were there, this is what it looked like. And this is a picture out of the CNN article. It's not my picture, they took it from the sky. But the water was so low, there were no docks. And it was kind of amazing.
So we were stunned to see the exposed port shoreline, and also really hit with the reality of our global climate crisis. it was really shocking. Without the docks, we had to trek down this messy sand, to the motorized canoes and catch a ride to our ship. And we actually wondered, are we ever going to be able to navigate the river? Because it didn't look so good. But it was the mighty Amazon, and we did set sail on our adventure. So you can see our small cruising ship. This is 3-decked beauty. It had air-conditioned spaces, excellent food, wonderful staff that were so hospitable to us. However, out on the lonely river, no internet or cellular service, so I made it tough.
But it did have a couple of hot tubs, but they were hot just because they got the water out of the
And
river.
fake home. Okay, so nobody's going to call this a leisurely cruise if you go on it. This is our schedule. Yeah, we got a big loud knock on the door at 5:30, run up and grab a sip of coffee, not too much because you're not going to get back to the boat for a couple of hours, grab a cookie. 6 o'clock we were geared up, our sun shirts, our life jackets, hats, everything, and out by 6 o'clock. We're out tooling around. 8 o'clock we came back and had this beautiful breakfast. Take a breather, take a shower, because you're already hot that early in the morning, and we're going out at 10 or 10:30 for a jungle walk, a visit to a farm or a village. Back at 12:30, hit the shower again, get the wet clothes off, and you have some time to relax. So there was always some kind of a lecture or onboard activity, so at that time it's really nice to get to visit with your travel companions. 4 o'clock, back on the boat. This time it's really pretty special, the sunset canoe trip. It's just magic when you know the birds are out that time of year, at that time of day. Back by 6:30 or 7 for a dinner, but always a daily native legend. And then at 8, on some nights, we got to go out in the canoes. Shooting stars were incredible, the skies were beautiful. Or we'd have an evening lecture or some games or a movie. Feature of the Black Lagoon one night.
So we were pretty active, we had no trouble sleeping.
So Bob got up extra early so he could catch his first beautiful sunrise of our trip, and it was spectacular. All right. So let me show you how we rowed. Okay, so Bob already talked a little bit about these nimble powered canoes. We were 10 in a boat, and each boat had a nimble, knowledgeable driver and our naturalist. Or sometimes we explored by foot on various terrains. And once we had a stroll on this squishy beach out of necessity because those flat-bottomed boats could not even get down to the tributary we were heading for. But you can see that we were delighted with this unexpected stroll. We're all smiles as we went back to the boat with the sun slipping down behind us. Magical moments. And here's a glimpse of some more moments that we don't want to forget. You see those threatening skies in the distance? Well, it didn't take long to get to our ship. We had sideways rain and howling winds, and it was even a bit rocky in our protected docking place. But it was gone pretty quick. And just as quick, we were mesmerized by this arcing rainbow from water surface to water surface. So there were times when the water was so still that it mirrored the lush green shoreline. And there were places where receded waters exposed rocks jutting from the shorelines. And to our surprise, on the faces of some of those rocks were petroglyphs. And they dated back 1,000 to 2,000 years. And there were spiral designs, and they reminded me of mandalas. It's a pretty neat find. So very close to Manaus, Bob was telling you there's a special place. The two large rivers come together, and they flow east to the Atlantic Ocean. So the rivers are the Amazon River, which at this point is called the River Solomos, and the Rio Negro. So this convergence is called the meeting of the waters. For nearly 4 miles, the rivers flow side by side, but they don't mix or merge. So you can see the divide. It's irregular, but it's definitive. And of course, you want to know why that happens. So what we learned is that the Rio Negro flows about 1 mile an hour. Its water temperature is 82 degrees, And the river, which looks dark, is colored by plant materials and decaying leaves, like our tannin-colored waters. The light-colored river, the River Solomos, flows about 2.5 to 3 miles an hour. The water is cooler, about 72 degrees, and it's lighter in color because it carries sediment from the high up in the Andes Mountains. So it is pretty amazing, and you can imagine us being up there where those hot tubs are, toasting to the phenomenon.
Okay, so now let's start talking about the Amazon wildlife. The Amazon is home to 10% of the world's plants and animal species. It's the most biodiverse area on Earth. And we did see quite a few birds on our trip. And this trip, as Debbie said, there was 20 of us, about half or even more than half were pretty good birders. And so we each kind of helped each other find the birds. And we did see a total of about 101 species during those 8 days on the river. Of those, 70 of those were light birds for Debbie and I. Debbie and me. So, what did we see? We saw a bunch of colorful birds like parrots and parakeets and macaws, about 10 different species, about 8 different species of birds of prey. We saw quite a few herons and egrets. And this is a little bit unusual, and the drought may have been the reason for this, because you had so much more exposed shore along the river that these kind of birds hung out. And one bird in particular, the guide said you would never see that here except for these kind of conditions where it's very dry.
And you'll get
And I'll
to
show you that. He's a cool bird. Lots of flycatchers. One in particular was really gorgeous. Vultures, and one again was really, really cool vulture. And some kingfishers. They have about 4. They have a few more. We saw 4 different kingfishers. We did see some mammals, mostly aquatic mammals. And we saw some fish, some caimans, and some others. Caimans are in the alligator family, and they were all over the place. We did see a few land mammals, but not a whole lot. We don't know if the drought was the reason for this, or just the animals like to hide from you, and it's a jungle, so it's not that easy to find them. We did see some frogs and arachnids and insects, but again, not a huge amount. And we did see some butterflies and moths. They were kind of hard to get pictures of because they were always in the vegetation.
What we didn't see, and we were prepared to see, were mosquitoes. It's crazy. We all sprayed our clothes and had all the bug spray little packets with us and all, and there were none. It was really surprising. So we weren't.
There were a couple, not very many.
I didn't get any.
So let's start with the herons. First guy up here is a boat-billed heron. You can see how big of a boat and wide bill he has. The rufous tiger heron, nice looking heron with the rufous nape in the back. Kukui heron, which is kind of like our great blue. And down here we have a striated heron, kind of like our green heron. And we got another cool picture of him having lunch. He caught a frog here, and we happened to catch him eating some frogs on his boat. But the really fantastic looking heron was the Agami heron. A good sized heron, nice silvery plumage on his neck, a little bit blue, green here, a little bit of red. That's the male. That's the male and the female. They actually look about alike, and that's the immature, brownish color. But he was a really, really gorgeous looking heron. He probably would not have been there if the conditions hadn't been so dry. Then we saw some birds of prey. We saw a roadside hawk, a smaller type of hawk, a great black hawk, a pretty good size, about 25, 30-inch type hawk. We saw this guy, a black collared hawk, got a white head, little black beak, and he's got a little black collar here. He's about the size of a peregrine falcon. And these guys were everywhere. This is their version of the vultures, basically. These caracaras are birds of prey. They eat everything. And this guy, this yellow-headed, is one of the species we saw. This guy happened to be right next to our boat, so I got an excellent picture of him. Then vultures. Here's our standard old turkey vulture. We see him all the time. A little offshoot of him, the yellow-headed vulture. Well, when everybody got their cameras out and pointing to the sky, because everybody with their big cameras and all the birders looking up at the sky, we got to see a king vulture. And he put a really nice show on for us. He was banking around. You can see underneath. He is the second largest vulture in South America after the condors. As you can see, he's white underneath, little black head, and then white in the back. When he banked, you can see his top. So it looked really nice. And we got some really nice pictures of this vulture. And he is a spectacular looking vulture. Doesn't look like these guys down here. It looks nicer. Some colorful boys, parrots. We saw the dusky parrot, although he was not all that colorful. He's more of a brownish, off-white color. The really cool looking guy was the festive Amazon parrot. He's solid green with a little bit of blue and red in the front.
And we won't forget how they sounded. They come across the sky in 6 or 7 at a time, and they're high up, but you can still hear their chattering little notes. It was just so much fun. We knew when they look up when they come by. It's really pretty.
This guy landed next to one of the villages we had, so I got a really nice shot of him. This guy down here, this blue and yellow macaw, he's a very big parrot. He's about a 36-inch parrot. Again, you see them flying high in the sky, but this guy came into one of the huts in one of the villages we had, so I got a good picture of him. The last guy here is a toucan, a white-throated toucan. He's a woodpecker. He's not in the parrot family, but he's also a very gorgeous bird. You can see the bill here. We saw a couple of them in the wild.
When you see them in the wild, you don't actually see them. You just look at, you hear their noises, and you just see this banana beak. And there's no way you can see them. They hide pretty densely.
He comes out in the open. He is really spectacular looking. So kingfishers. They have a number of different kingfishers. This is the one that was the predominant one, the Amazon kingfisher. He's about the size of our belted. Look at the size of his beak. All their kingfishers have huge, huge beaks. This guy's a lot smaller, the green kingfisher, but look at the size of his beak again. Bill. Better. And then the ring kingfisher, he's actually the largest kingfisher in the Americas. And again, very big beak, and he was having lunch. He has a little fish in his mouth. So we caught him on the side of the river having some lunch. Flycatchers. We have lots of flycatchers. This guy is the one that was the coolest looking to me because of his huge tail. He's got about a 7 or 8 inch tail back here. This is him sitting on a rock. He's got a little black cap. When he flies off, you can see the V of his tail flying off. And he's a gorgeous looking flycatcher. But the really cool guy was this swallowtail kite. And I've never seen one of these before, but these guys were giving us a show because they kept going and going and going. They're a spectacular looking bird of prey. They're pretty decent sized. But again, you can see the white underneath and the forked tail in the back. And then when he's hovering above you, you can see how white he is with the black trimmings.
They're so graceful. It was beautiful to watch them.
Then we saw birds that were black, not necessarily blackbirds. The first guy here is an ani, and that's in the cuckoo family. The fact that he has this bump on his bill here makes him a greater ani. And this guy, he was pretty easy to spot because he has a bright orange beak, and the rest of him is all black. And we got a good picture of him on a log on the side of the river. And this guy is a yellow rump cacique. He's eating some berries here. You see yellow in the back and yellow in his rump down here. We also got a good picture of him making his nest. And this is a woven nest, a pretty big sized pouch. And that's where he puts his eggs and raises his young. But the guy that was the coolest, and he is actually a blackbird. The coolest blackbird was this guy, the oriole blackbird. He was a gorgeous, spectacular bird. And he was actually in an area where we encountered some dolphins. So we were sitting there watching the dolphins, but then on the side, this guy just sat on the rocks, beautiful yellow bird, black wings, black tail, really cool looking blackbird. He's about 1.5 times the size of our order, so he's a good sized bird. And some little guys. Here goes some tanagers. Here goes the yellow-bellied Dacnus. This is the male with the big yellow belly and the green head. You can probably see his red eyes, but you can see the red eyes a lot better on the female. We have the palm tanager, which is about the size of our scarlet tanagers. And down here, the hooded tanager, hiding in the weeds again, hiding in the bushes. He's all blue on the back, and he's got little beady yellow eyes. Then some finches and cardinals. Their cardinal is a red-capped cardinal. You see him down here, the male. The female is here, has a brown cap. And these guys, these yellow finches, this orange front, yellow, they were everywhere. Every place we went, we saw these guys. They have these little orange patches in the front, and that's the female. Then I saw some birds I never even heard of. I had never heard of an antshrike, but here he goes. Nice cap back here, some black and white in the back. And then a rusty back spine tail. Again, something I had never heard of, but you can see his tail back here. He was hiding under the log, but we caught him. We did see some hummingbirds, but the only one I got a really good shot of, and it's not that great because it's shooting up into the sun, is this green-tailed jacamar. These guys, these flycatchers are pretty popular in South America and Central America, the tropical kingbird and great kiskadee. But I got a really good shot of him, I thought. He's got the yellow belly, but he's got this little circle, a little monk's cap. He happened to be eaten downward, so I've never gotten a picture like that before. And they have some swallows, white-winged swallow is their version of our tail.
Just as active and fun to
Yes,
watch.
they're all over the place on the river. Some thrushes. This guy's their version of a robin, a pale-breasted thrush. They have a crimson-crested woodpecker. See, big red cap, got a big V on his back. He looks a lot like our pileated woodpecker. He's a little bit smaller, about 75% the size of our pileated. Then some wood creepers. This guy's got a normal bill, and he's sitting going up the side of the tree looking for bugs. This guy is a long-billed wood creeper. His beak is about 4 inches long, and he found something to eat, and he's hiding behind a log on the side of the river. Now sungrebes. Sungrebes are not actually grebes. They're members of the crane and rail family, and they're called marsupial birds because the male of this species has a pouch under his wing, and that's where they grow their kids. Their babies grow in the pouch. So they're known as a marsupial bird. But the strangest bird, and Suj might have seen this guy, I don't know if Suj is out there. There goes a family of birds. These are called boatswain. I don't know how many folks have heard of boatswain. There's about a half a dozen or 7 or 8 of them here. When you see him close up, this is him. He is a very bizarre looking bird. And he's known as the dinosaur bird because he's bizarre looking, but also because he's ancient. This guy was the last surviving member of the Opisthocomyidae family, which is a bird line that split from the main line of birds 64 million years ago, only 2 million years after the extinction. And this guy, if you go to the Edelman Museum, we saw him on a video on the side of one of the buildings. So Suj, next time you go, see if you can find him. He's up there. He also is a very strange bird. He has a stomach like a cow. He has the front of his stomach ferments, the back is where he digests, just like a cow does. Got very large claws, and when he's young, and this is not my picture, I had to get this out of a magazine, he has extra set of claws on his wings. You see this claw here? He's got another one on the other wing. They use that to get up and down the branches and to escape from predators. They use those claws when they become adults.
So people call them the stink bird. Nobody wants to eat them, and they don't even have predators. But something spooks them, so they jump off the trees and land in the water, and these little guys can't fly back up. So those claws on his wings are what he uses to get back up to his parents. Mother Nature.
But the most dazzling bird that we saw, and this is one that all the birders in there had never seen before, was a life bird. And we didn't get a good picture of it, but I was the only guy that got a picture of it, and that's a sunbittern. I don't know if you ever saw a sunbittern. This is the picture I got to prove that we saw it, and none of the other birders happened to get that picture, but you can see the red and the bluish here? He's a gorgeous looking bird when his wings are open. This is a picture I got over this fellow here. He happened to have a nice still picture of him sitting down, but when his wings are down, he looks like a regular everyday heron. You wouldn't think he was all that great, but when his wings are out, he is spectacular, and everybody was thrilled. They were going crazy on the boats when they saw them. Both of our boats happened to see him, so it was cool. The guys, the birders loved this. Okay, that's it for birds. Now we're going to talk about fish. The Amazon has 3,000 species of fish, the most in the world by far. They actually have 500 species of catfish, which is more fish than we have in North America total. And the reason for that is it's very large, it's very old, and it's tropical, so lots of things live there.
So if you read the teaser for this presentation, you saw that I asked some questions. I said, you know, what comes to mind when somebody talks to you about the Amazon River? And one of the questions was, do you think it's isolated? Well, if you look at this fisherman out of this wide open water, there's nobody else around. He's just, you know, doing his thing and so isolated. And then there's a home right on the water. Bob will tell you about that.
So this guy, he's fishing mostly for his village and for his family. He's not a commercial fisherman. There are commercial fishermen, and they send the fish to the Mercado Centrale in Manaus. This is a fisherman's house. It floats. It's not a houseboat. It just floats up and down with the river as it changes, because it does, like I said, it goes from 100 feet to 60 feet. One of the fish we saw was this viara. He's of the dogtooth family. You see he's got some really sharp canine teeth. Not a very good eating fish, but they actually use them for aquariums. The smaller versions, got to be in a big aquarium, but they do put them in aquariums. And he's a sport fish. He's a pretty active and feisty fish, so they go fishing for him. So this is the actual fish market in Manaus, which was inside the Mercado that she was talking about. You can see the size of some of these fish. A lot of them come from commercial vessels, but some of them come from fishing farms, because aquaculture is actually very big there. So they took us to a fishing farm, and they let me go fishing. Debbie didn't want to do this. She was afraid of doing this thing. You don't get a standard fishing pole. You get this piece of wood, huge piece of wood, with a rope and a fish hanging off of it.
Which means you weren't very serious, were you?
Well, I don't think we're going to catch this guy, but what we were fishing for was a pirarucu. This guy is the biggest, or one of the biggest freshwater fish in the world. 10 feet long, 440 pounds. He's huge. Very good eating fish. And he also happens to be one of the oldest because he's millions of years old. And this is how these are the kind of fish that you see in the market, those big giant slabs of fish that you see.
We're just there to bring them up to the water so that we can actually see the size of them. They didn't intend for us to take one on.
But the fish that you all are familiar with in the Amazon is the piranha. And we got to go piranha fishing.
And I did that.
See, that's Debbie there.
So they gave me a spool with some, everybody got it, a spool with some fishing line on it and a nice juicy chunk of raw beef.
You put raw beef on the end of the hook and you just drop it in the water. This is one of our fellow guys catching a piranha. And here goes our leader. In this case, we had two main guys, Hugo and Wolfie. Wolfie's actually interesting. He's a German guy that settled here many, many years ago. There's a lot of Germans settled in Brazil. And so he caught the big one. This is a yellow belly. Typically, piranhas are about 8 to 12 inches. These guys can be as high as 20 inches. And most of them are actually docile, but they do have large, sharp teeth. This is the mouth of a piranha. And these guys are omnivorous, and so when they want to eat meat, they can eat meat. And so if a cow happens to walk into the river, or a capybara, or something like that, hundreds of them will conglomerate and devour the cow or the capybara. They have no problem doing it, but they don't do it as one person. So there are some stories of humans that were attacked, but not very many, because most of them, like I said, they're docile.
They just said, don't dip your feet into the water.
Not where the piranha are at. And so this is what we caught, and we caught a combination of red belly and yellow belly piranha. And what did we do with those guys? Piranha soup, of course. So the cook made piranha soup for us, and there was me eating some piranha soup. Some people wouldn't try it. Someone here wouldn't even touch it. It was not the best soup in the world. It was a little oily and fishy tasting, so we didn't have a lot, but in Brazil, you gotta do what you gotta do.
I
It's
captured
piranha soup.
that fresh in there.
Where else are you going to have piranha soup?
So, can you let me talk about what
Sure.
this was in
Now
the
you can
water?
talk about these
Okay,
guys.
good. Well, this is our day to swim with the pink dolphins. And we were about to find out why this experience rates as high as it does among people who come to the Amazon River. We hadn't seen these creatures on any of our outings so far, but on this day, in a wide, secluded cove, we were in the water, and in the distance were those mysterious creatures of the Amazon. So yeah, there's a lot of mystery in the Amazon. In this particular case, legends about these creatures have survived through countless generations. So they are known as shapeshifters. And these bodos is what they call the pink dolphins. Okay. They are said to change their appearance, sometimes becoming an alluring woman, or sometimes a dashing, sexy man. And the distinguished visitor will come and join into the village festivities, dance, and seduce. So the ancient stories claim that the Bodo will enchant his new admirer, and off they will sneak. And it's said that the admirer will be whisked away into the Amazon, to the dolphin world called Encanto, never to be seen again. Well, putting those stories aside, it's documented that these dolphins are highly intelligent, they are curious and social. And we were like a bunch of kids, high with anticipation. Our host for the experience enticed the boaters to come closer by offering a tasty bit of fish. And as we floated there in the Amazon, super cool, well, the dolphins came to us. And they were like no other dolphins we'd ever seen. The creatures were pink. Now there are some that are mottled gray, but pink is what we got. And they have some really cool, striking physical characteristics. They can grow 9 feet long and weigh 400 pounds. And they have a high forehead, almost like a melon on their head, some people say. And that is a lens of some kind to help them with the echolocation. And they have this really long tubular snout. And that's good for navigating in the tributaries and along the shorelines through the rocks and roots that crop up in the water. And they do not rise up and jump out of the water, but they're built to do some other amazing things, like turn their head 180 degrees because they don't have fused vertebrae in their neck. And this is cool, their flippers can move in opposite directions, so they can make a pretty quick turn for creatures being that big. So scientists said they are very intelligent. In fact, their brain capacity is 40% more than ours. And they use echolocation to help them find their dinner and their predators, the caimans. So that's why people can swim where there are photos. They can easily detect caimans and wouldn't swim anywhere where there was some. I mean, they're going to get them if they are injured or are on the side nursing their young, but not generally. So these botos lingered in the cove a while to poke around, to let us stroke them, or to shake a flipper like Bob did. So it was really cool.
So she spoke about caimans. We didn't see any caiman there, but we did see caiman in other places. This is the black caiman, and you don't really want to be in the water when this guy's around. He's about 16 feet long, about 1,000 pounds. He's the biggest caiman there is. Then there was another guy here, the speckled caiman, sitting by the shoreline. As we got closer, he just kept his eyes on us, but and he showed us his teeth. We didn't get too close, so we were okay.
Yeah, this is the part where I said, is it dangerous? Yes, this is where you felt like the Amazon was dangerous. This was pretty scary.
But then we saw a giant river otter. So it was a cool family. These are the biggest family, the biggest members of the weasel family. And they're quite a bit bigger than our river otters. They're about 3 times the size. They're 6 feet, about 75 pounds. And there's a family here, about 5 or 6. There's a good picture of about 3 of them. And so we came nearby, and when we did, Daddy came out to say hi. He wanted to make sure we didn't get too hot.
And it was loud.
He was loud, making some noise, and he didn't want us too close to his family. But he did want to show us that he was eating, so he did have some fish. And so we sat around and watched him play and eat fish and all. And then we started leaving. And when we left, he was going to make sure we left. He kept his eyes on us until we were gone.
Showing his bangs. See ya.
See? That was a really good experience. The next really cool experience was our encounter with a tarantula. And so we were going down the river. Roberto, who you see in the tree there, just stopped the boat on the side of the river, jumped out of the boat, started climbing up this tree. All up about 30 feet, got up to the top of the tree, and he used his hat to capture a tarantula. He's right there. And so we brought the tarantula to the boat, and he gave it to Hugo, our guide. And Hugo decided to stick it on his bright blue shirt so we could see him pretty well. And he's a blue, pink-toed tarantula. You can see his little pink toes here. You can see his face. You can also see it's right on top of his hand. And he told us, don't worry about it. They're a little venomous, they'll hurt, but they're not going to kill you. So don't worry about it. So we did see some other cool pictures. There's another really cool picture on his shoulders. The problem was we were doing pretty well, but he fell off of Hugo and into the boat. And it was in the road right in front of us. And the 2 people that were there almost jumped in the water. But they survived. He got it quickly, and everybody was safe.
And to finish the story, Roberto retrieved this little tarantula, got back out of the boat, and went up to the tree and put him back in his home. No insects were harmed.
So we did see a couple of little things, not a lot, but a couple. We saw some scorpions. This guy is a fat-clawed scorpion, the genus Proteus. He's, again, venomous, even more venomous than the tarantula. Scorpions are actually more dangerous than tarantulas, but not dangerous enough to kill you. This is a chirping frog. You can see how small he is sitting on a leaf. A crescent-eyed spider that you can barely see, camouflage on the side of the tree here. A proboscis bat, which again you can barely see on the side of the tree. And we did have a couple of flies. There goes the mayfly, the pale burr. And on the ceiling of our cabin came the avocado mantis, so the praying mantis. So we did see some bugs, but not a lot. And we did see a couple of large animals. And this guy here was our napping sloth. He's a 3-toed sloth. You can count the toes on his feet here. He's a 3-toed sloth. He was sitting up in the tree, which is where these guys hang for almost the entire time. He took a look at us and said, I don't care. He went back to sleep. They sleep a lot in trees. This is what sloths do. But we came across another one on another area of the trip, and he was on the ground, and he doesn't move very fast, so our guide picked him up. And this is more of an adolescent sloth, and we got to see him pretty close up. But he quickly put him down on the ground, and what did he do? He ran up the tree. And he ran as fast as sloths run, which isn't very fast, but he did get up there pretty quick. But the cutest guy we saw is this guy. He was a picture we put in the, this is a squirrel monkey that we saw in the preserve in Manaus. Manaus? Manaus. I'll say it again. Okay, here he goes peeking out of the bushes. And what are they?
Heliconia.
Heliconia.
Playing peekaboo.
And finally, for my part of the show, our nighttime journey on the Amazon. At nighttime, we would get in our canoes. Roberto would have a big light that would flash out. And the first thing you see as soon as you get on these canoes is these big red eyes on the surface of the water, all around here, near the shore, everywhere. It's the caiman that are sleeping or resting or whatever. We also disturb some birds that we happen to wake up in the middle of the night. We did get some good shots. That's a juvenile black caiman hanging by the riverside, so you know the caimans are there. And then found a frog. He actually picked him up and we got to look at him close up, a rusty tree frog. But this is a really cool experience. You get to see all the blacks, you know, the black and little stars and all. So now it's Debbie's turn to talk plants.
Well, this was our first land excursion, and it was a walk through a tropical forest, not the jungle. So we need to know what the difference is. So we learned that the word jungle was adopted by the English to describe an impenetrable forest or a dense, tangled thicket. And I hope you'll be able to see the difference as we go along. In the canopy, the rainforest was green and lush, even though it was a drought. We walked through really thick layers of leaf litter and lots of deciduous trees. And we were surprised that there wasn't much of an understory. It wasn't because of the drought, though. This is the difference between the forest and the jungle. Sunlight doesn't filter through the tightly closed canopy of the forest, so fewer vines or lower vegetation can grow under the trees like they do at the forest edge or the riverbanks. One of the things that caught our attention were massive termite mounds up in trees. Pretty incredible.
There were no termites this time of year because it was dry, but on the wet season, this would be teeming with termites.
And the other thing that we got to admire were these amazing buttresses on these trees. These are typical in rainforests because they stabilize the trees when the winds are blowing, the water's pushing against them. And it's also a way for the tree to absorb nutrients because there aren't a whole lot of nutrients in it once the rainy season comes and depletes the whole soil. And some of these grooves are so deep that you're playing, hiding in them and also it's pretty neat. Fig trees and the mighty kapok tree have these buttresses. And since we're talking about mighty trees, this is a mighty leaf. And it is from the Coca gigantifolia. This tree is a relatively new find, and it was first observed in the state of Amazonas in 1982. And there are lots of other coca trees, but this was a rare find, and thus is honored in the Manaus National Institute of Amazonian Research. That's the scientific center and the nature preserve where Bob took a picture of the squirrel monkey. So we got to play around there. And the green leaves, well, let me tell you a little bit about the tree though. You can see this leaf grows almost 8 feet tall and 4.5 feet wide. So I'll stand there to show you the size of that monster. So the green leaves, you can see the uniform sculpture in the edge of the leaves, and it caught my eye, and our naturalists were as puzzled as I was. But you know, we have experts in our nature club, so I showed it to Jeff Mullenhauer, and he knew exactly what it was. These cuts were made by a leafcutter bee, and they used the little discs to create a cigar-shaped tunnel where they lay their eggs. So, Jeff, you're not here, but thank you. Now we go on our second excursion, and this time it is to the jungle, the mighty jungle. On the shore, right on the spot, Roberto took out his machete and a sturdy walking stick. And I wondered, would I use it to help me walk through the tangled thickets or for protection? So, to help us climb up the soft, eroded riverbank, our guide strung a makeshift railing of strong vines. And once on top, Roberto took the lead, and when the underbush got serious, his machete came out and he bushwhacked a trail. We followed him with thoughts of encountering the creatures of the jungle, but we didn't see too many. Maybe it was the drought and the critters moved inland, or the fact that jungle creatures don't want to interact with humans. We learned that even snakes and spiders will go the other way to avoid us. And to be honest, I wasn't really disappointed. Okay, so we have a vine called the liana. If you look at it closely, it almost reminds you of a spiral staircase. It's called the monkey ladder. So lianas are rooted in the ground, but they can't support themselves, so they creep along tree trunks and up to the sunshine at the canopy. And as they reach up, they actually scrape across the branches and they make bridges for insects and animals. So this one is the monkey ladder. And now there's sticky stuff oozing from a tree. It's not rubber. It is a natural substance. The tree is called the chico or sapodilla, so you might guess that the sap is to be making chewing gum. The sap is harvested by notching the tree trunk and letting the sap drip into a vessel or a palm leaf. And let's see, the chico sap is boiled and molded and cut into little pieces. So in the 1900s, some entrepreneur decided that he'd bring it to the United States and coat it with candy, and you got the product, chiclets. So, nowadays, we don't make them out of this stuff, but we still have chiclets, I think. Okay, so our local guides know a great deal about jungle survival. They have knowledge that's been passed down through their own families, and the knowledge helps them find plants that are non-poisonous that they can eat. And it helps them select plant materials that treat ailments and illnesses. And they learn to use what's on hand to keep predators at bay. And Hugo demonstrated. Look at the volumes we got. Okay. All right, but you kind of heard him yelling. So they're asking, you know, do the jaguars laugh at you? And he's a little smile, but beware. So palms are a great resource in the jungle. Here Hugo was helping Roberto twist this palm leaves to make a strong rope. Hold on. Okay. Anyway, once it's tightly twisted, Roberto creates a loop. And you'll see him stepping into it. So what the heck is he going to do? Like a hula hoop? Oh no. So the loop becomes a brace to help him grip the trunk of the tree. It's a very tall palm tree. Well, I'll tell you, he's going to ask for his machete. There's his machete, and he puts it in his mouth, sharp side out. And then he goes way up and beyond anything that we would have imagined. Way up. The young men in our group were just amazing.
Can you say what kind of tree that is?
Not yet. It's a palm.
Palm tree.
I'm saving it. Okay, so he's getting close to the top. He's got his machete, and he harvests his find. Yeah. Throws down the machete. Look out below. Boom. And watch him shimmy down. That's pretty fun. And then he presents us with this wiry looking thing that we don't know what it is until we look up close. So it is a bunch of very ripe acai berries, something that we're all getting used to as an health food. So that was fun. So then you know it's hot and humid in the jungle and we might need more water. Don't worry. Hugo and Roberto hone into a particular tree. And with a couple of slashes of that machete, we have a few long bare branches. Here they are. Now Roberto will tip it into his mouth, and he drinks the water that's filtering through the branches. It's a Brazilian rain tree.
He's drinking the water right out of the tree.
So the Brazilian rain tree. And of course we were all invited to take a swig. Pretty fun. Not cold and refreshing, but fun. So I knew that I'd be honing in on these amazing Amazonian plants. So before I left, I connected with our own expert botanist, Carl Anderson. So, nope.
He's here.
Gail was here, Gail, you could tell what I'm talking about. So I asked him, what should I think about as I poke around? And his advice was that since I obviously couldn't learn all the secrets of the Amazon in 2 weeks, I should just pick out a few that caught my eye. So this is my random sampling. This arrow-shaped leaf is a flowering tropical plant and has medicinal uses. It caught my eye because the leaves point upward instead of laying flat or drooping down. And the second picture is a delicate spike moss or a lesser club moss. And it's one of the few greens that rise from the leaf litter in the rainforest. And another one is a mouthful to say. It's a stunning and highly collectible climbing plant called the Prestonian quiquagaleratus. And you can't miss the vivid pink webbing throughout the leaf. And this one is a tall, creamy white flowered plant, a gentian. So I spied them growing wild at one of the homesteads, and it wasn't familiar to our guides. So once I got back and reconnected with iNaturalists, I learned that this, in the 19th century, it was used for serious intestinal ailments. But interestingly enough, today, this plant's been studied for potential anti-diabetic and anti-malaria properties. So hope that works out. And we know that people are still studying these jungle plants.
The Jensen, right?
Jensen. And another set, this one is a round split-leaf plant called the Schnella glaba. And it's one of the lianas or vines and belongs to the legume family. And so like so many Amazonian plants, the leaves and barks are used to treat ailments from fever to cramps to venereal disease and stomach worms. And it's even used as a fish poison to stun the fish so you get a good catch. So I haven't come across common names for a lot of the plants, but I did find out that you could get some of these plants for your own backyard, even though several of them are listed as protected. Bob's pointing to the breadfruit, and there's no way you can detect the size from this picture. It can reach 85 feet tall. Its oval fruit grows 18 inches long, and breadfruit trees are one of the highest yielding food plants, with a single tree producing 200 of these grapefruit size or bigger fruits per season. And it can be roasted, baked, fried, or boiled. And they say it tastes like potato or freshly baked breadfruit. So this one I had fun pronouncing, the copawasa tree. So you're looking at the blossoms, pretty little things. They grow right along the branches. There's a close-up of it. So the copawasa is related to the cacao, the tree where the chocolate comes from. So that's, these trees are often used in agroforestry systems throughout the Amazon, and we will talk more about the fruit of this tree later. Knowledge of medicinal and nutritional properties of the rainforest plants can be traced back to the original people of Brazil. This knowledge and the traditions of native tribes lives on as a way of life in the really isolated areas of the Amazon basin, and also in communal settings, villages like these that Rhodes Scholar introduces travelers like us to. On this visit, our host, the tribal leader, welcomed us in the language of his tribe. And there are 5 tribes that live as one in this community. And then after he talked, he spoke Portuguese to our guides, so that we had the greeting translated. And on the sign that is above their hut are 5 letters, C-I-P-I-A, and each letter stands for the name of each of the 5 tribal groups, and there's a little symbol for the groups above. The community banded together, and they are trying to preserve their own cultures and languages. So the clothing, the music, the dwellings, and the food that you'll see are part of their daily life. And so you'll see the communal kitchen here, and they work together and they'll create meals that will feed the 40 members who reside there. So while they live with these ancient ways, they also welcome guests as part of the country's indigenous ethnotourism. We learned that once a month, they put on their sneakers and jeans and go to Manaus to visit their family and friends, or to shop, or to let the younger members see what the modern world is doing at that point. On our visit, we went into their community area, and that's, we're going to see a performance of ceremonial music and dance, and then they invited us to join in. And then they gathered the family so we could say hi. It was a really nice visit. So on this afternoon, we climbed another riverbank to a house that sits on stilts. And at the door, a mom and some kids accepted our gift. We brought some school supplies, and with their beautiful smiles, they thanked us. That was really a joy. Now, this property is a good example of subsistence farming. It has various trees and plants for family use, but we focused on their cassava crop. That's something that's grown all across the Amazon in every village. So Hugo is explaining that the section of shrub is already showing new shoots, and you just pop it back down in the ground, and it will generate new bushes. But part of the crop that's important are the roots. It's highly valued, but fresh cassava root is perishable and highly toxic. Ingrained knowledge and ancient techniques have allowed these roots to become a staple food source throughout the Amazon basin. So under this thatch palm roof, the family members were eager to demonstrate the old ways they process it. So a raw cassava has hydrogen cyanide when you cut it. So a warning, unprocessed cassava can cause cyanide poisoning. So to get rid of the toxins, the farmers use an ancient process. The starchy roots are shredded on a board that has fish teeth or shards of rock, and they come up with these stringy things, and that releases the cyanide. And then they take that shredded cassava, they'll put it in a basket, they'll rinse it and squeeze it by hand, and then they'll do it again. And I don't know how they know, but the toxins are washed away. And if anything's left, they are cooking it in these raised fire pits. When the process is complete, they have a mealy substance that's used for flatbreads or soups or even fermented to make beer. So we see cassava in our stores as tapioca or starch in box pudding mixes, or in my grandson's favorite drink, boba or bubble tea. And we also see other products too listed as yucca and manioc. So on our snack table in a little bit, you'll find some familiar version of cassava to enjoy. Now, one thing to note, agriculture like fishing is a critical part of economic survival in the Amazon. So there are expanding programs in sustainability, agroforestry, and the domestication of native plants like cassava. And that allows the local farmers to contribute to the economy, to feed their families, and also to take part in the management and preservation of their lands. Now, we get to visit a more modern village where electricity is up and running, and children from other villages get transported here by school boat. This is their school, and this is one of the modern houses, and the family was so proud of their kitchen appliances. And they have a lovely church. And the property has a variety of the plants and trees that we'd already come to know, but they also had some raised gardens with things that we recognize: tomatoes, peppers, and this eggplant. So what we heard was that they take the empty eggshells and hang them upside down, and that prevents snails and other critters from climbing up to the fruit. Don't know if it's true, but it's a cool story. So aboard our floating home, we had 3 meals a day, served buffet style, wonderfully prepared fishes and some meats, and vegetables, and the freshest tropical fruits and watermelon. Oh my gosh. And that was all part of our daily offerings. And we had a cake at every meal. Don't change it. I've got to talk about the cake. The cakes were themed. And so, of course, when we were at the meeting of the waters, we had a black and white cake. And so it went like that. It was fun. Now, in the heat of the afternoon or during the evenings, we gather for informative presentations. That's a trademark over at Scholar. And it's covering all topics Amazonia. But just before dinner, every night, we were summoned by the bell. And that was to gather in the community lounge where we would hear one of the special legends about the river and its people. And we thought they were kidding, but there was a quiz on the last day. So anyway, I'm here in the face-off, so I was pretty excited. But my travel companion actually beat me and walked away with the bubbly, but that's okay. And one afternoon was particularly fun. I know Bob had a good time doing this. We had a lesson at the bar making Brazil's national drink, the caipirinha. So it's a very thirst-quenching concoction of lime, sugar, ice, and cassava. That's a local rum drink, and it's made with fresh sugar cane. So let's see. Oh yeah, so then we had, other days we had lots of refreshing fruit drinks, local beer, or soft drinks. So Bob, what do you think? It's a good time to do the legend? Okay. All right, so we're going to tell you a legend that has to do with one of the local beverages that we enjoyed. The legend has many variations. It's a tale about a kind and generous mom and her beloved son. And the young boy was the light and love of the whole village. But one day, tragedy struck and he was killed by a jaguar. In her grief, the mother prayed to the gods to bring her son back. One of the ancient gods, moved by her heartbreak, came to grant her request. But instead of bringing the boy back, the god transformed his eyes into seeds. He instructed the villagers to plant them deep in the earth, where the boy's joyful spirit and energy could take root. From those seeds grew the first Wenonah vine. Its small, red-skinned round inside are white with a dark center, resembling the wide eyes of a child. So, all versions of this legend say that the villagers believed that when they consumed the fruit, they would be granted the boundless energy and joy of the boy. And I believe that's likely because these berries contain 5 times more caffeine than coffee beans. And today, enterprising soda companies want you to believe that their Wenonah beverage will give you the same lift. So we don't have the fruits with us, but we did bring the soda, 0-calorie version. It's definitely not decaf. So we'll put those out in a little bit. And let's see, one afternoon, Hugo and Robert laid out a beautiful display of native fruits and nuts. And I can only tell you about a few of them because Bob's giving me the hook here. So this hefty container is the casing for Brazil nuts. It's 5 pounds, it ripens and falls to the ground, and sometimes the speed of the bowling ball comes down at 50 miles an hour, so you want to stay away. But inside there are the Brazil nuts, 10 to 24 of them, and they're nestled in there like orange segments. So Brazil nuts are one of the most valuable non-timber products in the Amazon. Now this bright one is called the lipstick plant. It's found in the wild and it's also been widely cultivated. The name lipstick doesn't come from the outer peel, but from the red substance coating the seeds inside. And the coating and the seeds are widely used as dyes, cosmetics like lipstick, and for food coloring and flavoring. So we've learned that some of our butters and cheeses are colored by that product. And this is the calabash tree, and the fruit's known also as the bottle gourd. And it's hollowed out and then roasted, and then it's used to make utensils, vessels, and bowls. And today you'll also see them decorated and sold as souvenirs or as musical instruments like maracas and the marimba. I should know that. And this is the jackfruit. And it's the largest fruit in the world, weighing 40 to 60 pounds. And the tree can produce on average 100 fruits per season. The pulp of the jackfruit is meaty and fibrous, and people describe it as a taste of pineapple, mango, passion fruit, and banana. We didn't get to try it. Okay, and so back to the kapuska. Kapusaka. Okay, you saw the little blossoms we had before in one of the slides. As I mentioned, these trees are related to the cacao tree, and the flavor of the creamy interior of the fruit is described as a mix of chocolate and pineapple. So the pulp is fatty, and it has this texture of soft white solid, and it does resemble white chocolate. It's used in fruits and fruit juices and sweets and desserts. So one of our desserts, we were served kapuskaka as chocolate ice cream. And it was not chocolate, but it was still pretty tasty.
So we're getting near the end of our journey. We did all our learning and our adventure. So we had some time to relax, and we got to go swimming. Now this is Debbie here swimming at sunset in the beach. It was me in the water next to our boat. And they guaranteed us there were no piranha and no caiman here. And we all survived. We got out of the water all in one piece. And we got done, we got up onto the beach, and we had a farewell barbecue on the beach. So we got to thank our staff and our captain and everybody else on the trip. So that was the end of our journey. And just something that our guides told us, a little saying here, the Amazon basin is a special place where fish build houses for birds. These are houses that are built by the sailfin armored catfish when it's the rainy season. And this is where they nest, and their young and their eggs are in here. When the water dries down and the level comes down, the holes are exposed and the birds use them as nests, especially the swallows along the side. Hence, fish build houses for birds.
And sponges grow on trees. As we traveled along the shorelines, we saw the high water marks on the trees, on the trunks, and we saw the remnants of sponges. And sponges grow on these trees during the rainy season when the river floods the forest. It's pretty amazing. So sponges grow on trees.
And finally, you get to walk on land where fish swim. From the rainy season, this is underwater and teeming with fish. This is one of the trails we had to take up to the village, so you get to walk where fish swim. And this is a rare place that you can do this. And that's it.
We have some capital with pudding and that soda we were talking about. You can just open a can and pour a little bit if you want to sample it.
Any questions?
I have a question.
I'm sorry?
You drink that water out of that tree?
No, I didn't.
It was a-
I
Our
just
companions
wondered,
did.
because you're not supposed to drink the water
No.
anywhere. And I just wondered if that would be the water you weren't supposed to drink.
No, this is good.
Actually, on the boat, we had filtered water. They had a filtration system, and we had to use that even to brush our teeth.
Yeah.
You could shower in where that was
Yeah, you don't
the
wanna
off
use
color,
it.
but you wanted to have the filtered water. It's not dirty. It just has things in it that our bodies aren't used
Yeah,
to.
no,
so-
yeah.
And so, no,
It's about
I'm-
parasites and things.
I thought it was braver, but I'm not. I don't want to eat piranha fish or drink out of a stick.
But they were just trying to show us how people survive in the jungle. They get water from the trees, they get the acai berries, they get whatever they need to.
And
right from
we
the
had
jungle.
folks who were all in, so they did it all, so they were having fun. Any others?
Well, how do you know where the piranhas and the Caimans are?
The guy tells us. But if you hang around, like she said about the dolphins, if you hang around the dolphins, there are no Caimans around, because Caimans will be nowhere near these pink dolphins.
What's
And I guess
interesting,
you could look at they look at where the water's at and how deep it is and how shallow, and they can tell that this place has no. So they let you swim. I
The
guess
dolphin-
if somebody showed up, they would save you, I hope.
the dolphins are protectors of manatees, which is pretty interesting. And so the Caimans will go after the manatees. So the dolphins are often in the mix with that, trying to protect the manatees. But I don't know if they would protect us. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.